Hello, we're going to have a look at science this week, and we're going to learn about living things and habitats, the places where they live. We've talked about habitats before, but we haven't had a good think about living things, so that's what we're going to do today and for the rest of this week. This is day one, and we're going to start by thinking about things that are living, things that are dead, and things that were never alive. And it says here, I'm alive, because we are alive. But what do we do that lets us know that we are alive? How do you know that we are alive? Talk about that. Pause the video, press play when you're ready to carry on. And now that you've talked about that, I've got another video that I would like for you to see.
Squeaks, it's a great day to be alive. And yes, I'm really living, and so are you. But what does that mean? It sounds like a pretty simple question, right? There are living things all around us, as well as things that are not living. When I was looking around the fort's playground just a minute ago, I saw a rock, which is not a living thing. But the bird that was singing in the tree, that's definitely living, and the tree is too. But sometimes the answer to the question of what's a living thing and what's not can be a little tricky. I can hear a bird sing when I watch a video on a computer or a phone, but of course computers and phones aren't living things, even though they might make sounds exactly like things that are alive. Scientists called biologists study all sorts of living things, so they're the experts on what things are living and what things are not. After studying all kinds of life, they discovered that everything that's alive, or was once alive, has a few things in common. You can think of them kind of as rules that all living things follow. So let's take a look at some of these rules. Rule number 1. Living things need energy. You need energy to play and to do your schoolwork. A plant needs energy to make new leaves and to grow. Even some kinds of germs use energy when they make us sick. Living things get energy in lots of different ways, but they all need it to stay alive. Okay, rule number 2. Living things grow and change. You're bigger than you were when you were a baby, but you're not as big as you will be someday. And just like you, all living things grow and change, whether that means growing up or getting more branches and making new leaves like trees do. All right, rule number 3. Living things reproduce. Reproduce means to make more of something. When living things reproduce, they make more of themselves. For animals, that means having babies like kittens and puppies that will grow up to become adult cats and dogs. For plants, that usually means making seeds that can grow into new plants. Rule number 4. Living things respond to the world around them. In other words, when something around a living thing changes, that living thing changes too. For example, when you get cold, you might shiver or put on a coat. Both of these things will help you warm up, so that's how you respond to the cold. And in the same way, in autumn, when the days start to get shorter and the weather starts to get cooler, some trees lose their leaves. They are responding to the change of seasons. Great question, Squeaks. What about the leaves that have fallen to the ground? Are they living or non-living? Those leaves on the ground, even the brown dead ones, were part of a living thing, the tree. So biologists say that we still call them living things. Now, it might seem like there's some things missing from the rules, like what about moving? When you think about it, a lot of living things move, but not all of them do. Plants, for example, don't get up and walk around, but they're still alive. And there are things that move that were never alive, like shadows or the hands on a watch. Shadows don't use energy, and watches don't reproduce or grow. So if you're thinking like a biologist, then something has to meet all of the rules in order for it to be considered a living thing. If it doesn't, then it's not alive. Now, are you ready to test what you know about living things? It's game time! I'll name a thing, and you have to decide whether it's alive or not. First up, is an earthworm living or non-living? If you said living, you're right. Earthworms need energy to wriggle through the soil. They also grow, and they lay eggs that hatch into baby earthworms, which means they reproduce. And if you've ever held an earthworm, you know they respond to changes in the world around them. If you pick one up, it tries to wiggle away. All right, next up, is a cloud living or non-living? If you said non-living, you're right. A cloud may look like it grows because it might get bigger, say before it rains, but a cloud doesn't use energy and it doesn't have baby clouds, so it doesn't reproduce. And since it doesn't follow all the rules, it's not living. Okay, what about this stick? Is it living or not living? If you said living, you're right. This stick is living because it was once part of a tree. And since the tree is a living thing, then the stick can also be called a living thing. So you can use these easy rules to study everything you see around you. Go for a walk outside and take some time to stop and think about what you see. Icicles, acorns, pebbles, and grass, and look at the clues we talked about. Are they alive or not? Thanks for joining us on SciShow Kids. If you have a question for us, ask a grown-up to help you leave a comment down below or send us an email to kids@scishow.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
So in there we heard lots of ideas, and I've got some more things here just to summarize, which is that all living things do certain things to stay alive, and we call these life processes. And I'll be using that term a few times, life processes. Animals, including humans, do these things. Plants do too, although they do them in different ways. And we can remember these things by thinking about Mrs. Gren. And we've got Mrs. Gren down the side here, going down, and that stands for different things. So M, movement, R, respiration, S, sensitivity. You might not know some of these words yet, but we will explain them. G is for growth, R, reproduction, E, excretion, and N, nutrition. Let's take a closer look. So if we looked at movement, we've got a hare running to escape from danger, or sunflowers, and they actually move to turn their faces towards the sun as the day goes on. Respiration, well, that's breathing. Mammals like us breathe through their mouths and their noses, and plants breathe as well. They actually take in and give out gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide through their leaves. S was for sensitivity, and that's our senses. So we, and like other animals, use our senses to see, to hear, taste, touch, and smell the world around us. Plants can also detect changes in the environment though, and this plant here is called a mimosa plant, and that actually curls up when you touch it to protect itself. G was for growth, and I've got a creature here, it's called an ocean molar, and that started life as an egg, not much bigger than a full stop, so very small, but it will grow, and it will grow to weigh about 1,000 kilograms, and that's the same size as a large bull. So from a tiny full stop sized egg, it can grow to the size of a bull. And you grow as well. You're growing while school is closed. I'm sure you'll be much taller when you come back and you start year 3. And you might have babies or toddlers in your family, and you'll see how they grow too. And bamboo is a plant, and that is the fastest growing plant in the world. It can actually grow up to 3 centimeters every hour. Reproduction. Well, reproduction is all about making new versions of yourself. This wolf spider has her babies on her back. So spiders will lay eggs that will hatch. Some creatures like humans and other mammals, we don't lay eggs, but we have babies. And plants reproduce as well. They create new ones, new versions of themselves by making seeds. And each of these seeds here contains a tiny miniature plant ready to grow. You've planted seeds at school before, maybe even you have at home. Excretion, well, that's all about waste. How do we get rid of waste products from our body? Our wee and our poo is how we do that. And plants do the same as well. They have leftover gases or water, and they leave plants through their leaves. So that's excretion, getting rid of waste. And we had Mrs. Gren. So N was the last one, and that's nutrition. Nutrition, you might know the word nutritious, healthy, all about food. Some animals eat plants, and some eat other animals. Bears eat both, just like people. I wonder if you remember what the name is for animals that eat plants. Those are herbivores. If they eat meat, they are carnivores, and if they eat both, they are omnivores. But plants need nutrients as well, and they actually can make their own food using the energy from the sun. And that green, they have a green chemical inside called chlorophyll, and that helps them to make their food themselves. I've got some pictures of some things here. I'd like for you to take a look at them and think about which of these are living, which are non-living, and how can you tell? So which ones are living and which ones are not living? Pause the video while you talk about that. And here is how to sort those. The living things, we've got bees, crabs, foxes, mushrooms, plant here, and a monkey. All of those will move, they breathe, they grow, they can sense things, they need nutrition, they excrete the waste. These non-living things, they don't do all of those. We've got the ball. The ball can move, but only if you push it. Same for the bike and the car, but they're not alive because they don't breathe, they don't reproduce, they don't make new versions of themselves. They don't do all of the things in Mrs. Gren. I'd like for you to choose something now that is a living thing and explain how you know. How do you know that it's a living thing? You're going to draw it in here and then write a short sentence or a few words to describe how your living thing does each of the 7 life processes. Have a look at my example. I picked a magpie here. Moving, well, it flies and walks. That's what I know. Respiration or breathing, well, it breathes like me. Breathes in oxygen, breathes out carbon dioxide. It has lungs to breathe with, just like humans. Sensitivity or feeling, well, I know that it can see because they fly around at playtime and at the end of playtime when they can see the food. Growth, well, it gets bigger as it gets older, just like humans. Reproduction, well, they don't have babies, but they lay eggs that hatch, and then that's where the chicks come from. Excretion, getting rid of waste, it poos anywhere. Birds just poo where they like. You've got to hope you're not standing underneath when that happens. And then nutrition, for getting food, well, it eats dropped snacks at school. They always come to the playground and pick up any bits of food that are left over. So yours looks like that. You need to choose a living thing and then write information to describe how you know that it's alive. Here's my example to help you. Don't do a magpie, but you can do something else, and there are my ideas. Now we're going to have a look at things. Are they living or not? Well, we know, don't we, that living things have life processes. That was the Mrs. Gren. They need food, water and air to stay alive. They can sense changes in the environment and respond to those. They can also move, grow and reproduce. Non-living things can be things that were once living or part of a living thing, or they can be things that have never been alive. They don't need food, water or air, and they can't reproduce. Things made of materials like metal, rock, plastic, glass and sand, they've never been part of a living thing. Here are some other examples. And all of these things are non-living as well, but they used to be part of a living thing. Which living things were these all part of? Or each of these? Where did the apple come from? That used to be part of a living apple tree. The flour used to be living wheat, and so on. So how about this teapot? Is it living, dead, or is it never alive? How can you tell? Or this hare, this rabbit, is it living, dead, or has it never been alive? Again, how can you tell? And I've got a pine cone. Is that living, dead, or has it never been alive? The next activity for today is to label each of these pictures either living, dead, or never alive. And there's one of each in every set. There are 3 pictures of dogs, 3 grapes, and 3 elephants. So looking at the dogs, which of these dogs is living? Which one is dead? And which one is never alive? living, we've got dead or never alive. Let's take a look. Just set those up so I can keep using them. So this dog has never been alive. It's made of plastic and metal. It's a robot dog. This dog is living, and this one is dead. It's made of wood, and wood used to be part of a living tree. How about the grapes? Well, those are plastic. Looks like a toy. Never alive. These ones are living because they're still part of the vine, of the plant. And these ones are actually dead. They're not alive anymore because they've been cut off the vine. And then these elephants. This one was never alive. That's a statue made of concrete. This one is living. It's actually a hedge that's been cut. And then this one is dead. It's made of paper. And paper used to be wood, which used to be part of a living tree. So that's the next activity. Hope you got that right, and I'll see you for the next lesson.